It's time to bear witness to it, my friend. We shall watch it together. The beginning of the end. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. In fact, I do mean to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact, here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 221 of Fortnights of the which is known as Anarchy in Leonis. And
this chapter may just be.
It may just be a top 5 chapter for your boy. And is it a duology top 5 chapter? I think it's a duology top 10 chapter, but a top 5 Fortnite chapter. This chapter, it grabs the heaviest nearby object, lifts it up, swings it around, gets some momentum going, and boom! Knocks your boy right over the dome. You can see that in the 26-minute live reaction over on Patreon for those $1 month. You can remember for those $3 month. Check out the 26-minute live reaction to this chapter. But let's not waste any more time. Let's hop, because we got a lot to cover in this chapter. Let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into chapter 221. Anarchy in Leonis. So, we open up literally on this first cover. Color. I don't know why. I think it's because I say color cover. Whenever I say cover page, usually it is a color page, because I never put too much emphasis on the cover page, but this time the cover page is actually a part of the chapter, as the first page opens up and says, "Hey, where am I? That's the Leonis Castle. Are you kidding? That's insane. We were all in Camelot until a moment ago. What is happening to us, Donnie?" So, obviously we are living right in the aftermath of everyone being teleported here from Camelot. Now, I am still, even with the way this chapter goes, I get there are 3 core questions I have with the nature of the plan based on how this chapter goes. But number 1, everyone being here did need to happen. I remember that was my big questions from last chapter, chapter 220. I was like, we're teleporting everybody here, good idea. Considering there was a 4 from non-zero chance that a certain someone would get really rage baited and has already well since revealed their ability to just appear in the sky. Was it really a good idea to bring the ball here? In this case, with how the plan was executed in this current chapter, I do get the move somewhat. But now I'm definitely drastically worried for all these very human people as everything's about to start going down. There truly shall be anarchy in Leonis. But with it being the case, we open up. We do get to see that Edlin is bamboozled as like, huh? Really? That actually moved all these people back here? Which is a very impressive magical feat, right? Especially considering all Thetis, like not even all Thetis had to do. Because she realistically had about 2 years to study the portal to Camelot, which was a naturally occurring portal, mind you, just a rip in basically space-time in the demon world. So she had to move that. She had to study it enough to apply it to all these individual amulets. Then she had to essentially call... How do I put this in a way that makes sense? She essentially had air tags on everybody and didn't just have to check the location of everyone with the air tag, but then lift them out of that dimension. And notably, we know that Camelot is composed of multiple different realms. Whether they're multiple different space times is kind of not the case, at least as far as we know. The only 2, and I do mean 2 separate, like, confirmed space times, as in they operate on different time scales that we know of in the Seven Deadly Sins duology, are Purgatory and the World Beyond, aka the World of Lady of the Lake. We know time accelerates slower there. It's slower there. Meanwhile, it's faster in Purgatory compared to the main realm. Because we know it's slower in the World Beyond because Lancelot and Jericho only experienced 110 days from their perception, but actually it was 3 years in the real world. So that means time that flows faster there than it does. Or no, time... Am I stupid? Slower? Is it flowing slower there? Well, yeah, it's flowing slower there while time flows faster in the real world. Meanwhile, in Purgatory is different because a minute in the real world, or in any of the main realms, right? Because the real world isn't just the mortal realm, it's also the celestial realm, the fairy realm, and the demon world. So all 4 of those operate on the same time scale. So for the World Beyond, time flows slower in there relative to the outside world, because 110 days is 3 years in the real world. Meanwhile, for Purgatory, every single minute in the real world is a year in there. So time flows much faster in Purgatory. So that's the only 2 separate time spaces we saw. However, we do know Camelot is formed of numerous subrealms. As we saw with Onfuin alone, it was a place with a gargantuan starry night sky. I think was it 2 or 3? It may have been 3 separate moons, stuff like that. And that was just one realm. Then there was Pelgard's realm. Then there presumably was Ironside's own separate realm. Then there was the realm that we see Arthur's castle. Like, there are so many different realms in Camelot. So Thetis essentially had to tag everybody. So Lancelot had to run around all of Camelot, give everybody these tags. All of them had to be marked by Thetis. And then Thetis, across multiple different spaces, had to yank them all back here. Now, of course, I do genuinely wonder, is this truly everyone that was in Camelot? Because if so, that's a lot of those people that I thought. But still, regardless, everyone is here on some Smash Bros. Ultimate type beat. And naturally, we see that Donna goes, "Yo, what a crowd." As Boris goes, "Thetis has done it again! Why is she kind of goated? Maybe I have a chance with her if I don't have a chance with Anne. Because Percy's digging in her." But we see Donnie, or no, we see someone ask, actually, maybe that, no, I think Boris is the one yelling as Donnie's confused, as certain someone yells, "Donnie, where are you?" And naturally, Donnie's like, "Wait a second. Hold on now. That voice." And before we can continue on that one, Hauser begins to explain everything. He goes, "Attention, please! We are the Holy Knights of Leonis. You're familiar with these amulets, I trust. On orders of the King of Leonis, we have freed you from the evil land of Camelot and brought you back home." And, like, I cannot blame their pretty much immediate reaction, as the first thing they do is take these tassels and beam Hauser over the dome with it. Actual casual upscale of all the individuals who actually got Hauser to even move a little bit by hitting him with these, even though it doesn't look like he moved at all. With that being the case, we see some of the Holy Knights go, "Captain!" as he gets a variety of complaints in his responses. "Darn you all! Take us right back this minute! Hey, stop it, you! Not any one of us asked for any help! Yes, bring me back to my child, please!" Essentially, no one's happy, right? And initially, I was going to be like, that's kind of whack-a-doodle-doo, buckaroo. How could you not be happy, clicking your toes, wiggling your heels, this, that, and the third? And to that I say, well, imagine you were living in a land without taxes, with your loved ones that are eternal, probably all the food you want / need, probably a house you don't have to pay. Like, I'd probably be pretty mad too if someone said, "Hey, gang, you really need," and just yanked right out. I'd be nettled too. I don't really blame them. Especially, I want to think about it from like the idea of not only Hauser being like, "We got your back, are you happy now?" But like, especially the idea that the one guy points out, no one asked for this. No one asked. They were chilling. In fact, they were bamboozled and deceived into taking the amulets in the first place, for good reason, naturally. Obviously, they couldn't upright tell them the truth, because they got a snitch, and they snitched literally on the whole plan. But, in that case, I get the sort of vitriolic anger. And we see that as one guy calls them, "You fiends!" Suddenly, the night begins to change. It begins to wind and weave and wobble away. And everyone goes, "Look! I need to drop a bar here! The darkness of night is melting into the light!" I don't know what it is about that line. That's a bar. That's a bar. You're right. That's a bar. I don't know. I think it's literally just because it rhymes. The darkness of night is melting into the light. I wish it maybe darkness of light into a bright light. Maybe just throw another word in there or something to make it a full complete bar. But as someone pointed this out, Arthur literally snatching away the night to drop Mel's power in half is crazy. Like, most of chaos, mind you. And Arthur's like, can't have you getting that night buff, buddy. We gotta strip that away from you right now. I refuse to let you be swole as you fight me, dog. You better fight me like this. Now, this is actually a very interesting feat. Not necessarily because of what the feat is itself. It isn't necessarily upscale for Cath-Arthur. Like, the guy's created way more than just a night sky. But it is very interesting because it's the exact opposite of a feat from the original series. If you'll remember, it was in fact bright day. And then Base Chandler came along and just brought night with him. True night, mind you. Like, he just seemingly there are multiple different interpretations of what he did. Some people just assume it's a spell, considering how he cast it later against Escanor. But the reason why a lot of people assume it actually is like him genuinely rotating the planet is because of how Escanor's grace works. Escanor's grace works in terms of position to an actual star. It doesn't just work by like things being covered. If it did, that would lead to a lot of weird interactions. Though there is that one weird like external statement by Nakaba that apparently sunshine is weaker on rainy days, which literally doesn't make any sense. Like that literally doesn't make a lick of sense. It would make sense for Gawain, who seemingly absorbs solar energy and stores it like a battery, but like not at all for Escanor. But that aside, to see Arthur do the inverse of that feat, turning night into day, is very, very interesting. And once again, it is a nice play on the idea that he does have absolute dominion over light and darkness, being the wielder of a majority of chaos right now. But we see that as Arthur does this feat to nerf Meliodas, and Meliodas specifically, everyone starts glazing. Beautiful! If anyone could engineer a miracle like this. Oh, look who's up there! Oh, I just knew Daddy would come save us. Daddy Arthur! Please, my daddy, ferry us back to Camelot safely! So yeah, Arthur came up straight ore farming, or Carther came up straight ore farming. He had to do what it do. He had to pull up real quick, and he had to flex. And I do like the idea of Arthur, or specifically Cath, playing into all this. Hypothetically, if the scenario that happens this chapter did not happen, and Arthur did just get to take the humans back, I think he would have. Part of me genuinely wonders if the scenario of this chapter did not happen, would Arthur have even, fought? Because obviously he's going to fight now. But if what happens later on in this chapter didn't happen, would he even bother to box? I highly doubt it, just knowing Arthur, or knowing Carther at this point, because obviously it seems like he doesn't have that dog in him. If you have to go out of your way to nerf base Mel, I know Mel has transformation, but base Mel, mind you, by taking away Night, are you really built like that? Are you? But, and what the funny thing is, him taking away the Night, it has to be another planetary shifting feat, because now it's daytime. Obviously he literally absorbs the darkness, but dog, there would still be no sun in the sky, relatively speaking. So this may be another case of Chandler where he absorbed the night, and by doing so he also rotated the planet so there's a sun. Or it could just be he could be releasing light, because once again he does have absolute dominion over it. I don't know. But we see Carther comes in, posted up, leaning forward, big manga, sharp jawline of doom, and goes, "The 7 deadly sins. Why are there only 5 of you? Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Tricking, then kidnapping our citizens. An unforgivable act of savagery." And here's the thing. If, as much as I still, right? Because you may be like, it's been a few weeks since it's been revealed. In fact, I think it's been a bit over a month. I wonder how Pencil feels about the whole, Carther reveal. Is he still, not really rocking? Not really. Not really. I'm still I'm now shifted more towards the middle. Because now, where before I was like, I'm entirely against this, then I started going for it, because this is an interesting characterization for Cath. After seeing discussion about it, not just in my own comments, but just in the general community, it seems like everyone, now myself included, has come to the consensus that Nakaba only did the Carther twist because he was too afraid to commit on Arthur. Because if you look at some stuff Cath does, because that's the thing, right? No matter what, no matter how you feel about the Carther twist, it ruins one character or another, right? If it was just Arthur being evil, a lot of people's main argument against Arthur being evil was that ruined his character, though. And I think I see what you mean, but I think you could have easily written around it to make it somewhat make sense for the character. Or even just make it be an interesting development from the end of Seven Deadly Sins with, all the loss he went through and just the complications of growing older and the influence of Cath. You still could have done Cath influence and stuff like that, or Cass influence and stuff like that. You still could have made Evil Arthur work. Everyone who says you couldn't have and it would have been a horrible storytelling decision, I think, I'm not going to say you're wrong, because it's all a matter of subjective opinion, but I think you're a little bit too short-sighted and care a little bit too much about the boring character that is for Seven Deadly Sins Arthur. Or at least most of Seven Deadly Sins Arthur. Like I said, Camelot, inverse Camelot Invasion Arthur, where he fights the 4 top-ranked demons. Favorite Arthur, mainly because, he actually has a little bit of character diversity and edge and complications there. But the other side of it, the reason I'm now so convinced this was a last-minute cop-out by Nakaba, is the idea that this just isn't Cath. I talked about the idea of, Cath has clearly been corrupted by Arthur, so it's like an inverse thing. But like, I reread, like, because a friend of mine was talking about it, and they're like, dude, literally go reread all of Cath's appearances. And I was like, shouldn't take too long. So I went back and reread them. It truly is just Arthur until it wasn't. Like, if you look at all of Arthur's appearances and then all of Cath's appearances, and like even try to do like a direct merge of the two characters, Four Knights Arthur is just Arthur until he isn't. Which would have made more sense if it was Arthur being influenced by Cath, rather than Cath being influenced by Arthur, because Cath in the original series only had the motive of destruction once he had chaos. That's it. So all this like LARPing and stuff like that, it feels so random, and especially the way this chapter ends, he ends up flipping towards the end of this chapter because of the reveal that happens. It definitely just feels like Naka was like, actually, let's not make him evil. Let's just make a Cath. Why not? And that's the way I'm like more in the middle on it now. It's fine. A cop-out's a cop-out. I know Arthur's the biggest, nicest good guy to ever. Big, nice good guy. So you gotta make him a good guy. Wiggle my toes. Tickle my nose, bro. I don't care. But with it being the case, well, I do care. But like, I'm now more so mostly neutral in the middle. But with it being the case, we see that Meliodas hears the pot calling the kettle black, and it's like, I could say the exact same thing back at you. If you want to go back to Dreamland, go by yourself. And I will admit, in terms of going aura for aura, I'm actually going to have to give it to Arthur and the Four Evils. And you may be like, but Pencil Man, Pelgrim isn't even fully colored in here. How can you give it to the Four Evils and Arthur? I think it's mainly because Bond is low-key selling right now, along with Diane. Like these two bring down the aura. Gother posted up. Light beams on the ready, gas. Meliodas lost vein drawn, gas. King fully posted up, four wings flexing, gas. Diane, fix your face, dog. Why you blushing? And why you got that like weird down smirk? And Bond, why are you hunched over? Why like Bond? Where are you? You know what? You know why it looks so weird? He's not even looking at. That's why I was like, something about Bond doesn't look right in this image. And you want to know why? He's the only one not looking up. Like, hold on. In fact, we're gonna zoom in a little bit here. Hold on. Look at where Bond's eyes are. Look at his stance. Brody is looking like this, like Arthur and crew aren't up there. Why is he? And like Bond's notorious for like standing back and posting up like that. So I don't know why Naka drew him this way. I think that's why. I can't even blame Diane as much because you know she's probably nervous because she's the most fodder one here. Well, actually, we're next to Gother, honestly. But regardless, all that being the case. Bond is actually selling the pose because he's not even engaged. Bond, you do remember what you're here for, right? Look up like everyone else is. And then you may be like, well, King isn't looking up. King is at least in the air and that, like, at least his eyes are small enough they can't directly not see him not doing like something like this where he's looking up. But Bond is like, so he's selling the pose. So in the aura off, I will actually have to give it to the Four Evils. Also think the front lean pose just looks a little bit cooler. And right now, the way the Four Evils flank Arthur, like sort of like the what's the thing I'm looking for? Well, it's like it is a square, but there's like specific like mythological thing I'm trying to link this to, but I do forget. And it's not the directions, it's not the cardinal directions because this would be like northeast, southeast, southwest, south, or no, northwest. So like that's not it. But it's just in terms of shot composition and everyone looking. This works more. And the reason you may be like, well, why aren't you getting on the Four Evils for not looking down at the Seven Deadly Sins? Not only are they barely people right now, they're chaos puppets. On top of that, they're presumably looking over the humans. So I can give them a pass for that. Bond, focus up. But we see that naturally all the people who kind of just got reminded that Taxus is real are like, to heck with that, King of Leonis. You've got no right to restore happiness from us. You ain't the boss of us, you darn fiend. Well, demon. Your kind are the enemy. Get out of humans' lands now. And like, I do not believe might makes right. Let me lay this out nice, clear, and absolute. If I believe might makes right, I would for the law. Like now, I'm somewhat mighty, but even then, I get washed by like a good solid third of the people I see. Might does not make right. But for all of you people telling Mel to leave, make him. You talking all that smack? Make him. Huh? Oh, but wait, I thought if these weren't people, I thought you want to go to Camelot. Huh? Talking all this nonsense. Talking mad spooky for individuals who couldn't even scratch a single one of his hair follicles. He could one-shot you with a fingernail flick. I don't want to hear it. But we see that as Meliodas, the demon king of humans, is currently getting slandered, we see the glorious Cath-Arthur, human, parentheses, parentheses right-facing, question mark, parentheses left-facing, or no, not parentheses left-facing, question mark, that doesn't make sense. But human, in parentheses, question mark, Arthur, get some glaze. Oh, King Arthur, you're the king who must unite Britannia, Daddy. Our king's given us a true blue miracle by cracky. I'm actually gonna go. I have no idea what by cracky means, bruv. Like, what on earth? What by cracky? By cracky? By cracky meaning an exclamation used for that's a real thing. Oxford Dictionary. Well, butter my behind and call me a biscuit, dog. Never in my days have I heard by cracky. But by cracky, long live the eternal kingdom powered by Daddy's majesty. A true king, no, a true Daddy leading. I know, a true law leading us. Now, as a serial glazer of many different individuals, I know I'm the last individual who should have any right to say, hop off tip. How about that? How about that? How about you hop off tip? I don't care if he didn't charge you taxes. He's going to charge your life eventually. I know that because of dramatic irony. They don't know that. But still, hop off tip. However, we see Cath-Arthur get all this glaze and he's like, would you look at who they're calling Daddy? It's all me. And we see that Cath-Arthur goes to play into it real hot and heavy. It's getting hot and sticky everywhere. As he says, I see now that my worst fears were all too real. I was afraid the other species would strike at you, humans. You want to talk about giving up the battle? Like, I get it. It's just, like, Arthur doesn't have to play this all too much. He's literally gaslighting. He's gaslit them enough already. But, you humans? Hey, King Arthur, aren't you human too? Why are you calling us you humans? Like, almost we're a separate species from you. And Daddy Arthur, why are you saying that? Wait, what do you mean you humans? What's going on? A human king wouldn't say that. What do you mean you humans? Like, it'd be one thing if you said, like, you people, even though I'd raise my eyebrow at that too. Like, what do you mean you people? But, like, you humans? What does that imply you are? Big Daddy? But we see that Arthur doesn't just play at their existing vitriol, he goes to double it, as he says, and now they've taken away your happy lives with your loved ones. Twice, no less. And initially, I was gonna be like, Arthur, stop lying! But, like, technically, in, like, the most legal definition of the word, he's not wrong. He's not wrong, because do remember, it was the Holy War, which was primarily fought by the other races, that cost so many human lives, including a lot of the people here, naturally. So, yeah, legally speaking, it was that who took away the happy lives with the loved ones twice over. Of course, first time was the real loved ones. You don't get real loved ones the second time. But we see that many people start to glaze. They begin to cheer, some literally praying directly to Arthur as he's right there. We see Donnie, big flexing as he rushes through the crowd looking for someone. We see Elva almost getting caught up in the mania of it all. And we see King mogging immaculately. Diane sweating and once again keeping that like, and looking away. Diane, I need you to get a modicum of aura, dog. A modicum. A modicum! You know how sad it is? Diane has no aura. Like, now she has some aura moments in the original series. Like her baiting Belasco and the puncher in the face. That's from pretty good aura. She on her, you know who had the most aura with Diane, though? It was evil spirits possessing her body. That was the most aura Diane ever had. Actually, there's her fight with Gother, at least her initial battle, and then her rematch with Gother, especially where she did have a good hefty chunk of aura, especially considering she was nerfed there. But all that being the case, as King just gives a subtle, these foolish humans, while Dan is like, oh yeah, we did, we were kind of responsible for a whole lot of bodies being caught. So poor Diane. However, Gother looks completely unperturbed, and Bon is like, well, I may have lived a long time, but I'm human too. Bon's like, they can't get mad at me. Okay, I'm gonna go with this all. But with it being the case, we see as all the, realistically, three of the rulers, I think about it, a lot of political power in this simulations, because king, queen, village head, whatever happened to the demon village? Is Gother still guarding that thing? I don't know. Maybe they're just living in Leonis now. But with it being the case, we see Meliodas hit the stop carrying on, don't it, all of you! And obviously, considering this is Big Papa Mel, they're all like, whoa, what about our safe word, Daddy? I don't know, what is with my emphasis on Daddy this review? What is wrong with me? I have issues. Golly. But regardless, whoa there, Big Papa. This is, oh, wait, no. Hold on, I gotta put these aside. Gotta move it aside, move it now. But we see, oh, wait, no, I scrolled way too far. But Meliodas does yell, and he gets all of them to calm down and focus for a second. Well, not calm down, but at least go silent for a moment. And we even see the hush that falls over the entire crowd of presumably like hundreds, if not thousands of people. Even gets Gila like, my lord? Are you tweaking right now? And, of course, Cath-Arthur sees the opportunity and cannot help but monopolize or capitalize. Well, he's technically trying to monopolize humanity before he eats them. Or, like, all of creation before he eats it. But, with being the case, Cath-Arthur goes, deplorable. You have no defense, so you bellow at them instead? Now, it's crystal clear which side is evil here. And, like, I get it to some degree, but, like, what was he supposed to do? Just let him keep yelling? I don't know. Like, I always think of it like this. I'm a loud person naturally, so whenever I go to intentionally raise my voice, it throws people off even more, right? Unfortunately, shock horror, large fella yapper YouTuber man is also loud in real life. So whenever I, like, go loud and put bass in my voice, it's even, like, it is typically with adults, because, like, I don't know, most kids, when I just raise my voice even slightly and on to put bass on it, they'll stop and be like, whoa! But sometimes you do gotta be like, hey! Stop! And, like, and just a firm stop will just silence everything, because you need to set up for this. And we see what the setup was for. Why Meliodas was able to give Arthur the free layup, or give Cath-Arthur the free layup, as a woman says, Camelot allowed me another chance to live with my dead child. What was so wrong about that? And initially, I was going to be like, well, technically nothing's really wrong with that. I mean, that's not the healthiest way to cope with the loss of a child. But at the same time, I'm not and never will be a mother. And I know hormones are terrifying things. And with that being the case, I don't necessarily blame her. But someone can come along and blame her. As a certain little boy goes, Mom. And naturally, Cath-Arthur's like, wait a minute. I'm running the soul scan real quick. That's real. Wait, what was going on? And we see Meliodas cheese a little bit and goes, thank the heavens that boy found this guy. Or else I have no idea how this plan would work. But we see that the boy goes, what? Why did you leave me and go to some other land? And naturally the mother's like, what? What are you saying? We were together for years over there. And, like, it always goes down to the fundamental core question. But luckily enough, I've done enough peering, and I've asked you guys enough to have a good solid sample size. It does seem like it is a 50-50 kind of thing. I'm not alone, which definitely does help me. But I've asked many times before, and I've gotten many answers. Would you like to live in Camelot in order to get back someone you've lost? And some people said yes, but notably they gave context. A lot of people said, yes, I want to stay there because the person I lost was already older. They were already someone who was going to eventually fade away anyway. But in Camelot, I'd be with them forever, so I don't even have to worry about that. So sure, if they don't age, that's fine. I don't even want them to age anymore. I'd rather just be there, be able to spend my time with them, and, of course, all the other benefits of Camelot that are assumed. But then there are other people who were like, no, I wouldn't want to do that because that would defile their memory. If anything, seeing an illusion of them would make me angry at the idea that someone is playing with my heart and mind like that. And that's always the side that I fell on. But I do understand that idea where, especially for the case of the many humans, right, who lost their family members and their loved ones in the Holy War. That wasn't like a natural passage. That wasn't, some event. It wasn't old age. It wasn't anything like that. It was something far beyond their control by powers far beyond their control and even their understanding. Barely, I bet not a single human has even a fraction of a fraction of the context that we do for the Holy War, and we don't even have full context for the Holy War, and we're higher beings from a different dimension to this world. So I can't blame them for being so desperate for anything. And we see that now the Spirit and many others are coming to essentially retether their loved ones back to reality in spite of the loss of gravity. And as we see, the boy says, "But that wasn't me, Mom. I was looking for you. I cried out for you." And like that, it never really hit me, but especially with it being established that the spirits of, at least in the Seven Deadly Sins, I always thought with the idea of the capital of the dead being introduced, that like, oh, that's just where they all go, and if they're like especially bad, so they end up in purgatory. But seemingly enough, especially this was established unironically back in Onfwin when Gareth was introduced, the idea that spirits do just linger around. And they can linger around for a long, long time. We don't know exactly, I forget if we have an exact age for when Donnie's mom passed away. I think Donnie must have been like no older than 10. But probably well before the time of the journey, essentially. And she'd been following her son around for years. Even through separate dimensions, mind you. Like, notably, she was in Camelot with Donnie. Meaning, she was sticking to him and then followed him through the Camelot portal, because we know it's a separate space. Same thing with Anne's mom. We don't know exactly when she died either, I don't think. But once again, it's multiple years before the start of the story. She's followed him around the entire time. So it is interesting to see that some of these spirits couldn't follow them in time, presumably because of a lack of age or understanding or experience, stuff like that. Because the boy just lost his mother. I never really considered the idea of the spirit side of things, where like they have regrets, they weren't able to say goodbye, and now they're like trapped in this limbo where they're just stuck to watch essentially the people that they love so much abandon them. And the boy is very sad about that as he reaches out to his mother. And we see the woman realizing, oh, I've been a horrible mother. But to be fair, it's not her fault. Like, she couldn't see spirits. I don't even blame her for this. She's thinking she's been a horrible mother and that she's abandoned her child. But realistically, she didn't. She just went to live a life that she didn't really understand the repercussions of. Like I said, very few people actually knew the scope of Camelot. And even if you were to throw me in there, I feel like I definitely, just like Jade and crew, who actually, or no, Jade's crew, aka the Tristan Platoon, just like they fell for it despite knowing the truth of Camelot, I mean, I'd probably fall for the okie doke a little bit just because I'd love to hear their voice again. I'd love to see them again. But, I don't know. I think the rage would kick in pretty quick and I'd end up in Onfwin. But, would it be the case, we see Kion, who I do think, at first I was like, why are we using Kion to explain this? But Kion does make sense to explain this, as, once again, he and the rest of the Tristan Platoon went through this exact same scenario with Jade, that a lot of these people are experiencing, the idea that they lost their original person and they went to Camelot to get a fake version and be leaving the real person behind. We see, and I do wonder though, does that mean Jade is following them around? Of all the volume extras we've gotten, I don't think we've gotten that confirmed. But we see that Kion says, I'm sorry, but it's true. The people you were living with over there, they were mere illusions crafted by Camelot from your own wishes, which is just a teeny tiny bit dastardly and devious, Arthur, but hey, I respect it. Essentially, think of what Ardbeg got to experience with Gother. You know, essentially reviving his daughter. Yeah, same thing. Arthur just did that for, you know, entire swaths upon swaths of people. And for more benefit. But we see that a woman asks her husband, so, you were dreaming? And naturally, the guy's like, my dear, is that truly you? And you know what? I don't even blame them, considering they just found out their entire life in Camelot was a lie. I wouldn't blame them for assuming that this was naturally a lie too, right? Because obviously they are being tugged around and gaslit and gatekept and girl boss all the time. So I don't blame them. But we now see that an older gentleman goes, oh, what have I done? Forgive me. As presumably his son, who he presumably lost in the Holy War, comes and comforts him. And we see that the person facilitating it all, the person backpacking the, oh, wait a second, Seven Deadly Sins are actually cool and Arthur's kind of a bum, not a god to be glazed, is none other than my glorious, handsome, androgynous king. My glorious, handsome, pretty, androgynous ruler, Gareth. And we see that Hauser says, let her rip, Gareth. And Gareth is like, I won't be available for this. I won't be available for a while after this. So please, don't fry me. As they use calling and essentially mass summon all the spirits, or at least mass visualize all the spirits for everyone in Leonis in order to make sure they all reconnect with their people and understand everything going on. But now I do have a really big question, and I do wonder if you guys have already come to the same conclusion as me, or will agree with the idea I've come up with instead. Tell me, what do you think the plan was if they didn't run into Gareth? Because remember, Gareth was not a planned part of this. In fact, we do know the whole teleport everyone from Leonis, or from Camelot to Leonis strat was the strat for the entire 2-year period that was the time skip while Percy was away. Lance had been sparring and, slaughtering Chaos Knights, all in order to make sure that he he was slaughtering Chaos Knights in order to hand out the markers in order to get everyone ready for this. But like, if Gareth didn't exist, if Gareth wasn't here, how are they planning to convince people? I'm going to make 2 assumptions. Number 1, this is just a late addition to the plan. Amelia's hope that, seeing Arthur presumably while out would be enough. And, or, they're going to use Gother. We know Gother has already he has AoE effects. So essentially, Gother probably would have cast a spell revealing the truth, possibly using the Tristan platoon, or even just a generic case, as a basis to reveal the reality of Camelot's everyone. So Gother would have probably used, not necessarily a rewrite light, but probably like a massive twin bow Herod, 18 years plus of training, magical proficiency, Gother, just launch off a whole bunch of broadcast arrows and then giving it to literally everyone here in order to get them all on the same page. But since Gareth is here, this is a healthier way to help them cope in a way, and also, save Gother's magical stamina for the battle that's yet to come. But Gother, Gareth, they both start with G's and they're both goats. But we see Gareth is using calling, and all the people begin to reunite with those that they've lost. And a woman says, please don't leave me again. Or leave me alone again. And the man hugging his wife says, never. And unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Gareth cannot do this forever. Gareth cannot do this forever. So, buddy, potato chip, I know you try to comfort your wife, but yeah, I think he's gonna leave you alone again relatively soon. You may get a few minutes. Then we get to see that a man reunites presumably with his wife and she says, darling. And we see the man says, I'm sorry. You're my only true wife. My apologies, oh baby girl. I was blowing that illusion of you's back out. The chaotic grip was crazy on that thing. At that light and darkness 3000 gusher. And we see that Elva's like, wait, so Donnie, was he also? And Donnie naturally goes, Elva! Dude! You were putting me in the dead box? And naturally Elva turns like, Donnie? And Donnie literally goes, dude! You were in Camelot the whole time? What the heck? And naturally, Elva's bamboozled and it's like, wait, is it really you? You're alive? And Donnie goes, it sure is, and I sure am. Let that illusion trick you, huh? But, and I'm not sure if they kiss here or something, but Donnie does spontaneously blush a little bit deeper. She may pull him down a little bit. Donnie, I thought he was gonna end up with Rosemaker or something. I completely forgot about Elva and her CB crush on Donnie. Even how just like, look at my nephew getting some play. Unlike his uncle. But with it being the case, I was gonna get on Elva's case and be like, why do you think he's dead? He just teleported away. She didn't know that. She didn't know that. Last she saw of Donnie, a little weird pink fox walked up, threw a bead down while they were fighting a really strong guy, and Donnie vanished. I mean, like, maybe death wouldn't be my first assumption in the world of magic, but after such an extended period of time, 2 whole years of no contact, no sound, no sight, yeah, I get why she thought he was dead. But, with it being the case, naturally, with everything essentially tumbling downhill, Cath-Arthur's like, hey, whoa. Do not be fooled, everyone. This is another trick from the 7 deadly sins. What's going on? Are you idiots? And naturally, we see all the people down below slowly clicking their little brain cells together and be like, I believed in you, too. You fiend. You're the trickster here. They were just illusions? You liar. Thanks to you, my memories of my wife are scarred now. You've been playing with all of our emotions. And this is a really quick turnaround, but at the same time, I don't blame them. Because, if I had to hazard a guess, in credit to Nakaba's, background characterization, or just my assumption and glaze of his character writing, as the woman from earlier said, she spent all that time with her dead child. Another chance with her dead child. She knew they were dead. Everyone knows that the loved ones that lost were lost, right? No one actually believed they were real. But they had essentially pushed it to the side. They're like, you're not aging. That's not right. You don't develop at all beyond certain personality traits. You don't remember specifically. They don't ask. But they pushed that all to the side. They pushed that all to the back. Like, I'm just gonna live this life because it's better. It's better than whatever life I was living before, alone and grieving. But now that wall's been taken down, now that they have the real souls to interact with the people that they lost with, all that's the case. I don't blame them for merely switching up, because essentially this is likely festering emotions for some for as many as 2 years, some for maybe even longer. And it's all because of Arthur. So I don't blame them for being like, oh, Daddy's so thick, meaty, jacked, and juicy too. You filthy creature. And naturally, Cath-Arthur goes, why are you looking at me like that? Don't you owe me a debt of gratitude? Illusion or not, I granted you all happiness. I think I deserve appreciation for that, not scorn. And like, buddy, I get the game is up, but you really had to tell me it was an illusion? Like, there were probably at least, like, a third or a fourth, or maybe even half of the people being like, well, no, maybe the soul thing is an illusion. I can't interact with that. Like, that's weird. If it's not real or touchable, like, it can't be real. Because remember, very few humans actually interact with souls in this universe as well. So, Cath-Arthur, did you really have to give the game that they're illusions? First, it was the you humans thing. Once again, separating yourself from the humans. But now it's the idea of, really, brother? You're going to tell them they're illusions? Cath-Arthur, very powerful question mark in parentheses, but not the brightest spoon in the kitchen shed. And we see that many people look up at Arthur, both the corporeal and the incorporeal, all looking up with disgust towards the King of Chaos. All the way from this random guy to Donnie and Meliodas. But, of course, we see that Arthur's like, well, since time's up. But lovely, this is how humans truly are. No matter how pure and stout their minds, they're easily swayed by the crowd and their position. A failure of a god, filled to the brim with contradictions. And this, unironically, once again, where we've been able to be like, pot calling the kettle black. Wrong. Incorrect, Arthur. You're lying. You're deceiving. He's not necessarily wrong about that. Like, groupthink is one of the most devious and dangerous things ever. And notably, coming close, let me let you know something. You're hearing that from a group thinker. Just like, I have many diversified opinions in some cases, but I do hop, step, and jive, click my heels in line for many other things, which are arguably of greater or more debatable importance. So, Arthur is actually right. The idea that the crowd can be so easily influenced. And on top of that, their own position is the most interesting part, right? The idea that one's individuality can lead them to rebel against something hypothetically greater for them. And that is also true. It is very much the case where I've gotten in my own way many a time over. So I do get what Arthur means here. Now, but it is interesting that he says, a failure of a deity filled to the brim with contradictions. I think this is still somewhat in reference to chaos itself, obviously, but I think it is a very interesting case of another pot calling the kettle black thing, where Cath himself now is currently filled to the brim with contradictions by wanting to play the long game, by doing all this human stuff, by literally LARPing as Arthur, not even going monster guy. Like, he's doing so much extra stuff that he doesn't seemingly need to do, because he's also a walking mess of contradictions. So, like, it's a very interesting to see Arthur call out an aspect of humanity, be right on that call out, mind you, but big booty butt cheeks, not necessarily, I'm not gonna say not necessarily do anything about it, but still fall prey to his own nature, which is full of contradictions, as he himself is also a failure of chaos. But we see that Arthur takes the night that he had seemingly slurped up, concentrates it down, infuses it with chaos magic, and goes, I was hoping to finish you off after letting you bask in your joy for a while longer. I do wonder how much a while longer is, though, in Arthur's perspective. Like, what, till they all die? I'm guessing? Because, like, Arthur or Cath-Arthur should be like billions of years old at this point, depending on how long you think he spent in purgatory. But with it being the case, we see that he raises up the giant ball, he throws down the chaos spear, and he says, farewell, humans. It's been fun. And as the main people are about to get absolutely annihilated,
a certain jacked and juicy king
is like, hey, Zoshimurina, it's been a while, huh? And hold on. Oh, I couldn't do it at the same time. Full counter. Boom! Of Meliodas immediately leaps in base, mind you. In base, No Night Amp. In base. Meliodas leaps up to a at least partially Chaos Eyes Arthur attack. Swings Lost Vein. Pops the full counter. And it is immaculate. There's, as I saw, because I went after the live reaction, when you check it over on Patreon for those $1 a month, you can remember for those $3 a month, I did peek around the community, because I did have such a positive opinion on this chapter. I wanted to see if it was reflected everywhere else. And a lot of people, just like your boy, popped off, seeing the full counter pop out, and immediately swing the entire ball back. And naturally, we see Meliodas ask the question, now that he's like, okay, you humans, you're making all these illusions, you humans again, something is very weird. Who are you? And before Arthur can even begin to answer that question, he looks on in absolute terror as the ball of dark chaos energy repels back at him with twice the strength and literally threatens to atomize him as it warps into a massive explosion of the many different chaos faces. And it clears the skies around Leo's kingdom, which is crazy. But we see as the dust settles, everything settles in for the final battle. I'm kidding. I don't think it's going to be the final battle because once again the knights aren't even there. But still, settles in for the fight to come. As King and Diane stand at the ready, or King flies at the ready while Diane stands at the ready, Gother and Bond stand at the ready, Meliodas lands between them and locks in as Cath-Arthur happily declares, having blocked the attack with his 4 evils, saying, "Ah, how long I've waited for this. The day I finally settle the score with you. Sins." So, overall, W chapter. Hold on, let me. In fact, we'll hit it for the 2 then. We'll hit it for the 1. W chapter. And then, we will unclip. Hit it for the 2 time. I really like this chapter. Like I said, it's probably my top 5 for me in the duology. I think it's literally just because of the character work in this chapter. It does basically everything that could be done with the Camelot dilemma, the way it's being run, the way things should be done. It takes good use of all the characters involved, including Gareth. It does a fantastic job introducing Kion in order to explain the nature of Camelot, someone who actually went through it through losing a very close friend. It has Meliodas get to show off his kingly abilities, even if it comes at the contrast of quote-unquote revealing his demon nature. Like, all these different things work. Even Donnie and Elva getting a little scene together, like really giving us an on the ground, giving us an on the ground overview of how it felt to be in there and to deal with such. It's very, very good to see. And Arthur himself, while he is very, very focused on ore farming instead of, actually doing any damage, hey, we take what we can get. So overall, a W chapter. If you made it all the way through this video, please do me a favor and leave the 4 sins. Instead of the 4 evils, leave the 4 sins in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that little notification so you don't miss out on any videos like on the channel. Also, you do have a picture below. You support me for as well as 1, get a 1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the 26-minute live reactions of this very chapter, ad-free reactions of all my videos, early ad-free access to all my videos, early ad-free access not just all my videos here on the main channel that go with the pencil, but also the main videos on the second channel that go with the reaction. If you become a $3 patron or member, or really any patron or member, you get early access to those as well. And on top of that, I do have my Ko-Fi link down below where you drop 5 videos for a short video or 25 videos for a long video or any videos at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is, where is it? There we go. That guy with the pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, J2MA, Guillaume, Pura Ura, Enzo, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Magic, CCC, Dino, Hector Gonzalez, Tim Thomas, Kaving, Julian Perez, RXN, Nevi77, Logan Guzman, Dead Meme, Karu Deer, Christian Carter, Keon Stewart, Donovan McIntosh, Sino King, Hamza Idrisi, BNA DNA, Edwin Igbinoba, Straw, Athenzi Shear, Antavius Mitchell, Azo2404, Superflame Zero, Weary Exile, Window Life, Alex Kenny, Victor Jacobs, Todd, Dre, Axis XC, The Practical
Tactical 1, Aswin Hedi Persetia, JMD KD, Devi Pesiet, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Funny Dude, Jagoda, Plant Crone, Striker Man, Brandon Payne, Black Sage, and Multi-Batman Superman. Then I'll leave a thank you to Artline Art Tier patrons A+A, Kevin Encarnacion, Sean, Dread Zoen, Midnight Lord 21, CJ, and Karina Hernandez. Then I'll leave a thank you to our Inc. tier members, King RTX, Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06, and Zom. Then I'll give a thank you to our digital art tier members, J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons, Walking Munoz and Walkie Munoz.